You know that feeling, right? When you have a trip that is just so incredibly good that coming back from it practically ruined your life for a solid week. I mean, you step off the plane, you unlock your front door, and instantly, it's like all the joy just violently leaves your body. Today, we're diving into this explainer to unpack the ultimate clash, that euphoric high of travel versus the completely soul-crushing reality of coming home.
So you're standing there, staring at an open suitcase on your bedroom floor. Sand is inexplicably leaking into your good rug, somehow. You're holding a damp swimsuit in one hand, looking over at this monstrously overflowing laundry basket, and suddenly you just feel an overwhelming sense of despair. Like, why does the end of a really good trip feel less like a normal transition and more like you are actively mourning the loss of a dear friend? Well, if you're currently sitting at your desk, clicking your pen, daydreaming about a beach somewhere, and feeling this pang of inexplicable sadness, take some deep comfort here. Research actually shows that 57% of travelers experience post-travel blues. That's the vast majority of us. So let me just assure you right out of the gate, your brain isn't broken, you are not weak, and you're definitely not just ungrateful for the trip you just took. Actually, scratch that. Your brain is ungrateful, but spectacularly ungrateful by design.
Which brings us to Section 1, your brain on vacation, or as I like to call it, a neurological betrayal.
See, when you travel, literally everything around you is novel. You're navigating weird streets, you're eating incredible food, you're trying to figure out a completely foreign subway system. And this novelty, it completely hijacks what's called the hippocampal striatal circuit in your brain. Every single unexpected adventure triggers this reward pathway. It gives you a sustained dopamine and serotonin high that your predictable everyday routines simply cannot compete with. Basically, your brain is throwing a massive neurochemical party and you are the guest of honor.
But then, you come home. Let's look at the actual timeline of your post-vacation crash. Day 1 hits and boom, you get a massive cortisol spike because all those unread emails are piling up. By day 3, dopamine drops sharply. You are quite literally neurochemically detoxing from a pina colada high. Days 5 through 10, that's when the deepest mood dip happens because your serotonin is painfully readjusting to a total lack of leisure. And finally, by week 2, you stabilize back to your standard stressed-out baseline.
So, moving on to Section 2, let's talk about the hedonic treadmill, which perfectly explains why we just can't have nice things. This whole concept is based on hedonic adaptation. It's basically our human tendency to rapidly return to a baseline level of happiness, no matter what major positive or negative events happen to us. Honestly, it's almost insulting. Think about how wild this is. You adapt to lounging on a breathtaking Hawaiian beach just as quickly as that shiny, insanely expensive new smartphone becomes just a phone after a mere 48 hours. Our brains possess this spectacularly ungrateful ability to just normalize the absolute best experiences of our lives in record time.
And wait, it actually gets worse because of something called hedonic contrast theory. Your brain doesn't evaluate your mood in a vacuum. Nope, it evaluates how you feel relative to your most recent experiences. This creates a deeply, deeply frustrating paradox, because the more amazing your trip was, the more unbearable your ordinary Tuesday is going to feel by contrast. Your morning commute didn't actually get any worse than it was before. It just feels horribly gray and constraining now, because your brain is unfairly comparing it to, say, a sunset catamaran cruise.
Right, let's hit Section 3, why we never learn, also known as affective forecasting failures.
This brings us to affective forecasting. This is simply our ability to predict our future emotions. And extensive research from psychologists Timothy Wilson and Daniel Gilbert shows that we are hilariously, consistently terrible at it. We falsely predict that booking a week in Paris will somehow permanently cure our lifelong existential angst. We literally think to ourselves, man, if I just get to this resort, I'll be fixed. I'll be happy forever.
Wilson and Gilbert's research perfectly illustrates this exact forecasting failure. When you map out the hypothetical time course of our predicted emotions versus what we actually experience, there is this massive gap. We expect this soaring, sustained emotional high that's going to last for weeks, but the reality? Our expectations vastly overshoot our actual emotional reality. That vacation joy dissipates way, way faster than we ever think it will.
This specific psychological error has a name: impact bias. We constantly overestimate the enduring impact of future events on our emotional lives. It really is a comedic tragedy. I mean, we furiously book flights at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, completely forgetting that future us is still going to have to do laundry, answer passive-aggressive emails, and take out the trash when we get back. We genuinely trick ourselves into believing that the mundane reality of our lives is just going to magically vanish because we went to Cabo for a week. Let's jump into Section 4, Missing vacation you and the identity gap.
This is a pretty brutal comparison when you think about it. On one hand, you have vacation you. That version of you is spontaneous, well-rested, deeply curious, saying yes to all sorts of wild adventures. But then on the other hand, there's everyday you. Stressed out, hitting snooze on the alarm clock, drowning in deadlines, and heavily caffeinated just trying to survive the morning. Coming home means slamming headfirst into this identity gap. It is profoundly disorienting to realize just how different you are when you aren't weighed down by your daily obligations.
I want you to just sit with this thought for a second. I don't miss the beach. I miss who I was there. The post-vacation blues are very often a real, genuine form of grief. You aren't just missing the room service or not having an itinerary. You're actually mourning the happier, lighter, more engaged version of yourself that you got to be for 7 days. You are grieving a temporarily better you.
Okay, so how do we fix it? Section 5, surviving the reentry and outsmarting your brain.
We actually have a science-backed reentry protocol to help you survive this withdrawal. Step 1, the buffer day. Seriously, never fly home late on a Sunday and go straight into work on Monday. You absolutely need a gradual reentry to let your cortisol levels adjust. Step 2, microdosing vacation. Deliberately bring your travel habits right into your daily life. Like, if you loved walking to get a pastry in Rome, start walking to a local bakery on Tuesdays. You have to prevent that total stimulation-deprived baseline. And finally, step 3, stop panic booking. Do not immediately chase the next dopamine spike by planning another trip the exact second you land. You have to let your brain's reward circuitry recalibrate. So here's the ultimate question. Sometimes this crash is purely just brain chemistry. It's just the inevitable dopamine dip of returning to normal. But sometimes the intensity of this sadness is a signal. You have to ask yourself, is it just post-travel blues, or is your brain desperately trying to tell you that the ordinary Tuesday you've built for yourself needs a serious upgrade? Because instead of just panic booking another escape, maybe the real work is building an everyday life that you don't feel the need to constantly run away from. Think about it.